The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Jinno Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. We are back for another episode. We are four guys still in four different cities, but in different ones than we usually are in. Hi, my name is Mo. I'm in Los Angeles. Chris still in New York City, fresh from All-Star Weekend. We have Jinno Rufino in Los Angeles as well, where he's more like in Orange County. And Brad, not in Australia, but this time in OKC, of course, covering the Thunder. So, gentlemen, again, same setup. We're ready to go. Chris, you have first quarter duties and 12 minutes on the clock. What do you got, my friend? How can we help you?
All right, well, let's get started with the trade deadline. It has passed, and it was exciting as a Tim Duncan interview. Boy, what a fizzle out we saw today. We saw some trades. None of them were big names. So it comes down to this, guys. I want to know, well, first of all, was it scared GMs worried about losing their job? Because I would think there would be bigger deals going on. You have these top teams that are really running away with things to a degree, where maybe one or two teams was going to make a move to catch them. And if they didn't think they can catch these top teams, that they would start the overhaul of their teams and maybe rebuild for the future. Instead, most of these teams stayed status quo. They stayed in the middle there, and they're caught, as we call it, in limbo between making decisions. So, guys, what is your take on what we saw today for the trade deadline?
I think a lot of people just waved the white flag, to be honest with you. I think they believe that, okay, we're not going to beat the Warriors, we're not going to beat the Cavs, we're not going to beat the Spurs and the Thunder. So they're like, okay, let's try and work. It was disappointing. There was no game changers that happened today in today's trade deadline.
Yeah, but if they're gonna know they're not gonna catch the Warriors, the Spurs, OKC, Cleveland, then why wouldn't they make deals for the future? Why wouldn't they start building that way? Because what is the difference of thinking that they can't catch them this year? What's the difference of next year? How is that going to be any different? I don't understand.
I think with the new cap coming in and how big that's going to be, and I believe that they're all in a wait and see mode and see what's going to happen.
Okay.
There's that new cap space that's going to come in next year. That's going to play a big factor in how free agency is going to be. So that's why maybe the trades they just wasn't exciting.
Right. Chris, to your point, everybody acted sensibly, which isn't very fun for us fans. We wanted drama. We wanted things to sort of pop off. We wanted Cleveland to make a major overhaul, whether it was shopping Kyrie or Kevin Love, and like LeBron to sort of do some crazy dramatic things with his rotation, or ultimately what we wanted to do was we wanted to see Boston do something crazy, wherein they moved some young guys out, they added to their front court, and they looked like a challenger, or maybe even Toronto doing something wild so that they could actually potentially leapfrog the Cavs in the closing sort of stretch of the season. So I think you're right. I think the top three out west were never sort of going to do too much sort of, with their sort of rosters, but everybody else, I mean, it's surprising. Dallas, Memphis, sort of didn't do more than what they did. And, I guess, it fizzled a little bit. Fans all around the world kept hitting refresh, hoping that something great would sort of pop up. And when it didn't, and 3 o'clock arrived, everyone sort of thought to themselves, man, what a bunch of sort of hype and what a bunch of hot air and what a waste of our time. I mean, I think,
there was a lot of big names. I mean, we heard a lot of big names in the rumors, and I don't know if that happens every year, but
all weekend. all weekend.
Yeah, the huge names: Carmelo, Dwight Howard, Pau Gasol aggressively being shopped, Al Horford, Jeff Teague. I mean, there were some marquee players that were thrown out there, and it looked so close that we were going to see something, and then nothing. And I mean, I think maybe Gino's right that, or even you, Brad, they were acting.
I mean, do they miss their morning alarm?
Sure.
Yes, yeah.
No, I think again it was a little bit what Gino said earlier, which is, they're probably scared a little bit. With it, I don't know about the cap deadline thing, but more just I think there are a couple of teams out there.
It's competitive, and their job's to win now. It's competitive. It's a competitive business, so it's like sitting on your hands. It's like you're playing the stock market, or you're doing sort of anything where it's all about what you do today. It sort of makes no sense to sort of be conservative. It's like they're not in the business of being conservative. Conservative is what you are when you're the Warriors.
But is this a different year? Is this a different year where we're seeing teams so historically dominant that we've never seen this before? I mean, yeah, a lot of talk about the Warriors and them going up for the best record ever, but there are teams right after the Warriors that are just as dominant as any other team in any given year. So when you have these teams that are just a cut above everybody else, when you're everybody else, regardless if you're successful or not, they're just kind of getting realistic. Like, hey, there's no player out there that we get that is still going to make us better than San Antonio or the Thunder or the Clippers or even.
Right, but there's no way that the players themselves and even the GMs are throwing up their hands and saying, well, there's nothing we can do. I mean, the whole point of their employment is to figure out ways to top the people who are ahead of them. So for sort of like this sort of, not that it's complacent, but I think it is more sort of a little bit about sort of, they're not sort of willing to sort of overhaul things just because, they, just like sort of fractions of things. But yeah, it just doesn't seem sort of right that, Houston being one example, they're in a position where they're not contending. They have real problems with their roster. And, you'd think Houston would do something dramatic to either move, Howard, Harden, Lawson, somebody, so that they can actually be not only in the contender conversation now, but they've actually got sort of a much sort of prosperous future tomorrow. And right now you've got to look at Houston and you've got to say, man, they probably missed a few key opportunities. Maybe they could have got Horford. Maybe they could have got, Gasol or somebody, and teams, as we said, were actually actively looking at what was available, and then they looked at the landscape and said, well, we might as well just keep what we've got. But a lot of these teams are in a position that's no different to where they were, and they weren't happy before. So what makes them think they're happy now?
Right. If you think about it, there's 26 teams that can't win this year. Okay, so maybe there's 4 more that can compete next year with some off-season deals with the top 4 teams. So you talk about historically best teams. Those historically 4 best teams or 3 best teams, they're not going to change really that much next year. So legitimately, you only have 22. You have 22 teams going into next year who probably don't have a chance unless they do something big. And we talk about next year with the cap and all that. Well, why not start now? And that's the biggest issue I had with why not start now? Why not start that foundation now? Instead, they sat on their hands, and they're going to continue to be in the same situation come early next year, or at least barely better in some situations, some of them worse.
So is there a team that we're most disappointed in, if we can point one out that didn't make a move? Like, I could kind of maybe target a couple of Eastern Conference teams. In the West, I don't think so, just because, again, Golden State, the Spurs, and the Thunder are just so much more better than they're so much better than everyone else. But maybe in the East, I think that you brought it up a little earlier with Boston. I think they probably had the assets to make a huge move and land a marquee guy that maybe can contend with the Cavaliers. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were saying, hey, the Raptors not that far off from the Cavs. Well, yeah, but they still needed that one piece to kind of to equalize that Eastern Conference, and the Cavs, try to kind of get on par with them. I think the Raptors and especially the Celtics, because they had the assets to land a massive player.
Right, and if Al Horford was as available, or if Pau Gasol was as available as we were led to believe, then it's sort of silly for Boston to have not tried to get one of those 2 front court players to try to bolster their roster this year, maybe even sort of challenge Toronto for the number 2 seed. And Boston's in the prime position where they get to dictate their own fate. So why wouldn't you do that? I don't sort of quite get why they would sort of go, no, we like the sort of young pieces we have. We don't want to mess with our chemistry, but their team's got a real ceiling, and I just don't see how Danny Ainge, being the gambler that he is with this stuff, wouldn't sort of take full advantage. And, I guess, them sitting pat right now may pay off for them long term. Maybe they just want to wait and see what happens with the draft and their number 1 pick, and if they can land Simmons or whatever have you. But imagine they had Simmons and Horford and Isaiah Thomas and, Crowder and everybody else. I mean, I just think that, they're in a position where they really, could have done something that sort of surprised the league. And maybe they were seeking it, and maybe the other GMs just weren't returning those phone calls, and maybe they were scared that, Danny Ainge was going to hoodwink them, as he seems to do just about everybody.
Yeah,
Hey,
I think
guys.
that the Celtics. I mean, I really wanted the Celtics to do something here with all those picks that they have, but I really think that they really are just sitting on their assets and just waiting to see what's going to happen.
Sitting on their
Where
asses,
the
did you
ping
say?
pong
I
balls.
agree.
I mean, it's. I mean, you're right. I mean, imagine if they landed a Pau Gasol, if they were able to even move David Lee. I mean,
Right.
and plus some picks. I mean, it would have been interesting to see this year. But I mean, in the long term, maybe just maybe Danny Ainge did the right thing by doing nothing.
Hey, I would like to see the Celtics too, guys, but I want to shift over to a team that did make a move.
Oh, is that a
Unfortunately
favorite
for
team
us-
admission? What?
Was that?
Well,
Wait,
no.
what?
Unfortunately for us, it was the biggest deal of the day, and it was the Clippers and Grizzlies, where Jeff Green came over to the Clippers. So let's discuss that, and got rid of Lance Stevenson. So I don't know if this is more of getting Green or getting rid of Stevenson, but I guess GM Doc Rivers' little project of Josh Smith and Lance Stevenson is now over. Talk to me, guys. What do you make of this deal?
I love this deal for the Clippers. I mean, I'm a big Jeff Green fan. I think he's definitely a solid player. He's a character guy as well. Not like Lance Stevenson, who's a head case. But I love this move for the Clippers. I mean, Jeff Green can play different positions for them, and he can play the 3, he can play the 4, he can do all sorts of different things. So
Right, he could be a
I
sixth man
think
or a starter, which I think is helpful.
Yeah. So I mean, he can come off the bench and provide the energy, and he could start also in place of whoever it is that he needs to start for, whether it's Blake or whether it's going to be Paul Pierce or anybody else. I mean, I like the move a lot for the Clips.
Right, it gives them real insurance in the front court and for the bench. And so, Doc Rivers brought in Josh Smith and Lance Stevenson. Boom, 2 failures, 2 toxic, players, both gone before the sort of trade deadline. And it's interesting that sort of Doc realized his own faults, corrected them in time. And now the Clippers have a real chance to sort of enter that conversation if they can get their chemistry issues worked out. And if Jeff Green is a sort of seamless sort of transition, there's a real chance that they've sort of found the small forward that they have been, searching for some time. And if Blake comes back healthy and hungry, the Clips could be a surprise or a dark horse come the playoffs. And, they've now seemed to got the starting 5 that they've always sort of wanted. And Green, man, I mean, he really is an X factor. He can go either way. He can shoot you out of games, or he can really show up and put up 30 and play solid D. And, a combo forward that can be a difference maker. So, the Clips have to be happy with what they got. They didn't have to give up too much to get him. But, in the same process, Memphis, shopped both Green and Courtney Lee. And so, Memphis has clearly decided to go in the other direction. And Memphis clearly has given up this year and decided, we're just going to have to
they've lost Marc Gasol for the rest of the season. So they're pretty much, they're definitely done. And now they brought in Stevenson. You get Stevenson, you got Barnes, you got Zebo. Boy, you got a group of bad boys over there.
That's fine, though. They have a bunch of expiring contracts here, though. Don't you see past this season good things for Memphis with all the expiring contracts? Or is this, not the case?
Well, they got to get Mike Conley back, and I think that's going to be key for them if they want to go ahead and kind of just, right ship quickly. And I think that would be a priority for them in the offseason. Obviously, this is a lost year.
Mo, with Stevenson, Zebo, and Barnes there, who knows if they even survive till next season? Like, anything could happen with this roster.
Sure.
Craziness.
It is going to be volatile and fun.
We're going to get a big kick out of it.
They're going to be what the Kings are supposed to be, what the Kings were supposed to be this year.
Right, which is a bunch of headaches together.
Just an ongoing train wreck that we all just sort of look at and drive past slowly and wave and think, geez, I'm glad that's not my family.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was a good move for both teams, to be honest. I think past this year, it'll be good for a Memphis situation. But good feedback, guys, and talking about the trade deadline overall. And I know we're going to speak about a few more trades in an upcoming quarter. So good stuff. Thanks,
Chris. I'm so bummed that you're so disappointed. I know you looked forward to the deadline and you wanted something to happen. Chris, man, I feel like you're just completely deflated.
I just wanted some explosions, man, like a Michael Bay movie, like.
Yeah, I mean, I really had my eye on Blake Griffin being traded. I know we said that would be crazy talk in past episodes and stuff, but that would have been just so massive. And, I'm kind of disappointed that he wasn't moved. But anyway, time's up here in the first quarter. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have quarter number 2. And look at that. I'm going to be handling second quarter duties.
First half in a long time, buddy.
I like the racial diversity now finally going on here. It's good stuff on the show. Yeah. Taking a break. Back after this. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import award?
Our best import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is a Thursday night here on our taping day, which is also the trade deadline date for the NBA, and that's what we're breaking down here, at least in the first few quarters. I want to talk about a move that the Cleveland Cavaliers made. By the way, 12 minutes for me here in quarter number 2. I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers as their GM, LeBron James, traded away one of his original crew guys, Anderson Varejao, for Channing Frye. Now, yes, this, of course, helps the team. Frye is a weapon, but what's interesting here is that Frye's very much like a cheaper, kind of older version of Kevin Love. So how does this dynamic then all of a sudden move forward? Is this kind of a...
it sends some pretty bad signals, I think. Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, totally.
You got to be careful if you're Kevin Love now. It's like LeBron's brought in your insurance policy, and he said to you, if you don't perform these playoffs, I'm not sure that there's a spot for you long term. Or LeBron's so freaked out about small ball in Golden State that he needed to bring in an extra weapon to sort of be mobile and spread the floor and try to run those guys off the court. But it's a very interesting move for LeBron. The assistant GM come in and said that it was very difficult to trade Varejao, but GM LeBron seems to be very happy with what he's done there in Cleveland. So,
and
I think
don't rule out if Varejao's bought out of his contract and goes back to Cleveland.
Oh, he's waived, or he was already waived today by Portland, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
There you go. So he's going to go back. He's going to be like LeBron's butler or something.
They'll find a role for him on that team. I mean, look, the thing too here is that Frye kind of offers them this really interesting sort of piece. I mean, I wonder if they're going to sort of end up playing him at the 5. I mean, Mozgov has kind of been uneven this year, and I guess Thompson kind of is an incredible rebounder, but I'm not too sure if they want sort of him out there in terms of like he's sort of limited offensively, and I think Frye might end up sort of becoming like this either fourth quarter guy for them. Leader of the second unit, and obviously, his 3-point shooting and his mobility is just going to be sort of another piece that LeBron can sort of find. And I think this kind of officially moves LeBron over to the point guard spot, if nothing else, because it's LeBron with 4 shooters now, and I think that just makes Cleveland an even more dangerous team. Assistant coach.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you. If I'm going to jump on that point, is how much better are they going to be now with Channing Frye? Is this a really is this a big upgrade? Is it 10% better team now?
I mean, they're going to be much better because they weren't even using Varejao anyway. So I mean, if you're going to have a
but he still needs minutes for them to be better. Where are the minutes going to go when you got Thompson, you got some mouths to feed with Kevin Love and Mozgov as well, and LeBron?
Well, offensively, I could see Frye teaming up in the front court with a Kevin Love as a to battle the small ball of the Warriors.
Where's the defense going to come from, though?
There's going to be no defense. I mean, their defense is going to be their
guys.
Offense,
do we even know what the hell
which could
Cleveland
be
is doing at this point?
could be their Achilles heel going up if they're going to try and do that against the Warriors.
Sorry, Chris. You were we didn't get that. What did you say?
I mean, at this point, we talk about it pretty much weekly. Do we even know what the hell Cleveland is doing? We're grasping for straws here, and I don't know what to feel about this trade, to be honest with you. Where are they going to get the minutes from? What does it do with the combination? Frye and Frye and Love. Where's the defense coming from? I don't know what to make of it. It's just one of those deals. Like, I don't think we know what the hell Cleveland's doing, and that's a bad issue at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like this trade at all. And in fact, it might even ruin a little bit of chemistry there. What if Kevin Love does feel threatened about this and kind of gets pissed off? He already complains a little bit about not gelling with a group. All of a sudden now he sees this as Brad may have Brad kind of brought up earlier, that possible threat. Like, what's going on here? I thought it was one of the core members. Now you got a guy here that plays a game not similar in, say, a rebounding sense, but definitely in an offensive game, very much like mine. And then all of a sudden we might see some chemistry issues kind of blow up again.
Chris, I guess the thing here is that LeBron's added him to the roster, but in the event that Frye doesn't work out, he still has the core of Shumpert and obviously Irving and love to sort of be there around him, and Thompson is still his boy.
Yeah.
So Frye being the leader of the second unit, what I'm saying is that if Mozgov and obviously Richard Jefferson and the rest of the bench doesn't perform, at least Frye is there to give them some offense and some deep shooting and some sort of big man play. It just gives them versatility. And I think it's a case where LeBron knows that unless he's got the depth, because there might be an injury, he just needs to have, he saw last year his team go down with injuries and get decimated.
Sure.
If they're going to play the Spurs or the Warriors, or the Thunder in the final, I think he just wants to have an extra piece there for a what-if scenario. Look, we might get to the finals and Frye might only play 1 minute a night or not play at all on DMP. Or it might be a case where Toronto is going to catch, ahead of steam, and LeBron's going to feel threatened that he's not, home court advantage is going to be under attack. At least Frye is there to give them some sort of other looks. And remember, Tyrone Lue is going to now have to sort of challenge, he's himself and his roster to sort of find ways to get Frye involved and to make him sort of blend in instantly. And that'll be a real sort of, challenge for him. But at the end of the day, it's what LeBron is able to do on the court that's going to matter most. And if LeBron likes Frye and if LeBron's looking for him and Frye's knocking down shots, he might become a bigger fixture, or he might become that X factor that we see sometimes at the deadline. Right. Rasheed Wallace was another example with Detroit, who got brought in late. We weren't sure what to make of him. He fit in perfectly with the Pistons, and they sort of really sort of seemed to excel once he was added to that team. So they might go from a big three to a big four because he has a very sort of specialist role now in Frye, coming in to sort of fill in and plug sort of holes that they were sort of missing, prior to that acquisition. So, and they might not even lose Verjo if they go ahead and get him off the waivers anyway. So this is just for me anyways. I mean, I still have chemistry concerns and minute concerns like everybody, but I think that the opportunity to add Frye is probably a good move for Cleveland, given that they want to make sure that injuries aren't going to be the cause of their failure to win a championship this particular season.
Yeah, I have to agree on that point. I think definitely he's an insurance policy to me more than anything. I don't think there's going to be minutes. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be minutes.
And he
there
may not
for
cash
him
him in.
If
That's
Kevin
the cool
Love's,
thing with
healthy.
insurance,
Yeah, and I'm all for LeBron playing a bunch of point guard duties, as you brought up, Brad. So if that's the case, I'm really liking to see that. That's one thing I've always felt that makes that team better.
All right, I want to move to a team that really I had my eyes on, only because I was kind of shocked that a lot of rumors were coming out of Atlanta. There were some, I think, considerable attempts to trade Jeff Teague, which many of you probably heard. Al Horford as well, which really shocked me because I think he's the cornerstone of that team, and even Kyle Korver. So we're talking about guys in that core group, a team that was really successful last season and are as high as the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They're a game away from the third seed. So for a team to at least attempt to blow that up was really mind-boggling for me, because this is still very much a successful season for them. And to kind of pull the plug, or at least attempt to pull the plug, I just don't agree with what the Hawks are doing. Now, I know that they're not one of the favorites to win a title. They're probably not one of the 7 favorite teams to win the title. But to still kind of try to trade your core group and to show your fan base that you're waving the white flag this early into the season is something I really, really don't agree with. I want to get your guys' take on what Atlanta tried to do for the trade deadline.
Well, they know their ceiling. They reached their ceiling already, and they're not going to get any better. And that's why they wanted to see what was out there and see if anybody could have used. Maybe a team like the Raptors, a team like Boston, could have used some of their players, especially some all-stars that they have. I mean, they weren't going to win. So I mean, they're number 4 right now with 31 wins and 24 losses. And if they were, they're only 3 games. The Bulls at 8th seed are only 3 games behind them. So I mean, I don't mind that they actually tried to do this.
And would you have done the same if you were the GM? You would have tried to trade these 3 guys?
I would have looked around. I would have looked around, see what was out there. If I was able to get some picks from the Celtics, why not? I mean, it's kind of strange because
you have a fan base though that you have to be accountable for. How do you explain that to your fans that you're a game out of the third seed and you've given up? I mean, listen, the Cavaliers, yes, clear-cut favorites in the East. But, I mean, they have to beat teams to eventually get to the finals, and you never know what can happen in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Maybe, as we brought up earlier, one of the Cavaliers players go down. We really just never know, and you've already thrown the white flag. I mean, we know that the NBA purgatory historically, your NBA purgatory is what? Your 7th or 8th seed year after year. I mean, if you're the 7th or 8th seed,
kind of fourth, fifth, and sixth.
That's what. Well, see, that's what I wanted to ask you, Chris. And I'm glad you brought that up because I don't agree, but I want to hear your take. Is the NBA purgatory definition no longer the 7th and 8th seed? It's now moved up to 4 and 5, and maybe even 3 in this case.
It's been 4, 5, and 6. Well, in the West, it's definitely 4 and down. But you have some years. Okay, you have to take it, but you have to analyze what's going on. You have to take it, each year. This year is probably 5, 6, 7, maybe 6, 7, 8 in the East. But it's definitely 4 and down in the West. Here's my thing. Jinno, you spoke about they've hit their ceiling. Okay, so I'm trying to understand this. If they hit their ceiling, isn't that more of a reason to blow it all up, or at least make moves now to position themselves in the next year or two? I mean, instead of not making any move.
Well, that's why they tried. That's why they were shopping around their all-stars. I mean, Jeff Teague was an all-star. Al Horford was an all-star this year. Jeff Teague was an all-star last year. So, I mean, that's why they were trying to move these guys around to see if – I really think that they were going after some of those Boston picks so that they can build for the future. And they couldn't get it. They couldn't get the job done with
they couldn't move Horford. They couldn't move Teague, especially with this contract. They were just nibbling out there and did nothing. It's almost like they were scared to pull the trigger.
Yeah, the T contract's a great contract. Chris. I think he's like $8 million a year. So it's a bargain for a guy that was an all-star last year.
It's a hell of a bargain.
Yeah. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Sure, no, I was going to say what we don't know is that maybe there was a legitimate offer on the table. Maybe they had seriously reviewed all their options, and then Al Horford got called up to participate in the All-Star game, and they thought to themselves, holy crap, we can't move this guy now because the fan base will slaughter us. Like, maybe it was a situation where maybe if he'd not been called up, it would have been, completely different, outcome. Maybe, Atlanta got spooked in some shape, way, or form, or maybe a team, once he had gotten the All-Star selection, withdrew their offer because they thought Atlanta might ask for too much in return because of the elevated status. But what the sort of situation here that bothers, what bothers me most is that Jinno is saying that Atlanta is here to service other teams. I don't think that's the case at all.
Well, I don't think that's the case at all. I was trying to get the understanding. But Brad, you brought something up.
No, my point is, Right. So I just don't see why Atlanta would want to trade essentially a piece without knowing they're going to get something stable in return. You do not want to drop from the 3rd or 4th seed down to the 8th and possibly out of the playoff picture right now. It's too early for them to sort of overhaul the roster.
That purgatory? The teams that stay in the purgatory are the teams that worry about their fan base too much.
You don't know how this plays out.
Purgatory. The teams that get stuck in purgatory are the ones that worry about their fan base too much. I watched it for years here in New York, that everyone was worried about the New York media, and the Knicks, year after year, were stuck in that purgatory before they started sucking. You can't do that. You can't worry about their fan base.
But Atlanta has to worry about their fan base because their arena is empty.
It's silly. They're going to be empty.
That's another reason why. That's another reason why they're shopping around these guys because their arena is empty.
This is the only time. This is the only time they're going to get people there if they get into the playoffs as a number 3 seed. This is their money making years. To blow it up is not good financially.
Let me just say this. Now, if they keep Horford and they keep Teague and they keep Millsap and these guys continually put up numbers and continually show their worth in the East as a 3 or 4 seed at worst, they get home court round 1, they survive round 1. In round 2, you don't know. They might play the Raptors. Someone from the Raptors might get hurt. They might be able to win that series. All of a sudden, they're in the injury game.
That's right.
Because luck falls their way. That's why you can't blow it up when you are in the
injury game again.
So I know, but the injury game is legit. We saw it last year with Cleveland, and it happens. The injuries go.
So
injuries are going to happen.
What happens? The Warriors or Spurs or the Thunder? Warriors or Spurs or Thunder hurt themselves too? When's the injury game going to stop?
Okay. The West. I'm treating the West. We got to call timeout here because we're still into this. The West. I think you treat that differently than you do the East. I think with the East, because Cleveland's the number 1 team, anything can happen between 2 and 8. And if you're in it, and they are definitely in it, with a game away from third.
So we need
Let me just say this.
And we don't know how. We don't even know how open. Okay, how big of a window does Cleveland have to dominate in the East? A year, 2 years? That's it. This Atlanta team's a young team. You got to keep this crew together.
So Cavs injury, Toronto injury. Who else? Okay, see on the list. I'm writing it down now.
All right, we got to get out of here. All right, let's go. Let's take. Sorry, Brad, I cut you off. We got to take a break. We're already done here.
No, I'm good. Let's do it. Let's move on.
Right. We got the halftime show coming up. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't worry, guys. We're still friends. I just want to reassure our listeners, just in case they're worried. Yeah, back after this. Don't go away.
a Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
It's halftime here in the Full Court Report, and this is the time we kind of take a step away from basketball a little bit, except for today, we're going to be talking about a basketball player. Well, he tries to be a basketball player.
That's right, he is a basketball player.
He's a
Jeez, I
professional
completely
basketball
forgot
player
about
and
that
a
part.
coach for his team.
That's right.
I just came from Wild Card. I trained with some of the trainers over there, and the mood in the gym because of what happened in the past couple of days.
Jinno, see, the problem is Jinno thinks that the world revolves around, like the boxing world revolves around Wild Card. Wild Card is a boxing gym run by Freddie Roach.
Yes.
And Manny trains there. It's a popular kind of Los Angeles joint, or if you're into boxing, you've heard of it. But yeah, Brad, a guy like you, a Wild Card sounds like a football playoff thing.
No, Wild Card sounds like a strip joint.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. For your interest, that's what it is.
It's the most famous boxing gym in the world.
Second most.
In the world, well.
I would say Kronk Gym. I would say Kronk Gym in Detroit.
Yeah, that's debatable, Jinno, but I get why we would say that, being Filipinos. Anyway, continue.
Okay, anyway, so Nike dropped Manny Pacquiao because of his statements that he made about same-sex marriage. Now, I know you guys have strong opinions about this, and before I say mine, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Mo, I know you got something to say.
Well, obviously, I think Manny was just a stupid move on his part. What an idiot Manny is for saying what he said. And I'm floored by. First of all, I respect his religious beliefs. Yeah. If he's against same sex marriage, fine, whatever, sure. He obliterated though his reputation,
Absolutely.
even and his desire to kind of run for higher office and all that stuff, because his analogies were off, his science was off, his examples were so poorly constructed and ignorant, and a lot of bigotry, a lot of just kind of hate there. What really pissed me off about Manny, though, is after he apologized in a true narcissistic form, he then posted another, now this time he posted an Instagram photo where he quoted Leviticus 20:13, which says, if a man has sexual relations with another man, then he has to be put to death. So this is after the idiot apologized. He went out and then just kind of rubbed it in. Like a freaking narcissist. Go ahead, bud.
Did Manny get hit on by RuPaul or something? Like, how did this even come about?
No,
Why would
this
he
was
say
just
this stuff?
this was just a random interview. Remember, he's running for the Senate, and when you're running, people are going to interview you, and they're going to ask you about your platform. And this is just a basic question: how say you in, say, the divorce bill? How say you would legalize marijuana?
So you're saying he took the ultra conservative angle here, but not by doing so, not realizing that he's actually out of touch.
No, he did not.
Well,
he
no.
did not take the ultra conservative angle. He went further than that.
He said something incredibly offensive. Well, first of all, he is a conservative, but his example was so poor and so stupid that's the problem. You're okay. You can get away. Oh, it was awful.
You know what Manny should have just said? He should have just said that I don't agree with same-sex marriage, and that's it, and leave it at that. But of course, it was probably the worst thing to say. I mean, the way he worded it was just wrong. I mean, the translation, if you translate it exactly from the Filipino language to English, could sound even worse than the way it was translated.
It could have been translated in Swahili or whatever. It was bad all around.
It was bad, but I mean,
what
as
butt?
much as I
There's a butt here? Oh, I want to hear this butt. Go ahead.
There's a butt. As much as I disagree with how he said it, you have to respect the fact, like Mo, you said it.
I don't have to respect anything. What do I have to respect?
Wait, respect what? You have to respect what?
Put himself out there for his what he believes.
Whoa. Just because it's your religious beliefs, you're not a bigot. You can't be a bigot
truly believes
religious beliefs. You cannot hide behind it. I think he's more of a pussy by hiding behind his religious beliefs to be a bigot. Oh, that makes it more reprehensible. And then comparing these people to animals or lower than animals, that's a joke. He should have his sponsorship pulled from Nike.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely.
I agree 100%. His sponsorship should have been pulled. I think for all of his endorsements should pull the plug. All I'm saying is, as much as I disagree with what he said, the way he worded it, he was talking about his religious in a religious context. It's not like
he wasn't, because he wasn't using
he did anything.
No, he showcased his religious beliefs and then explained it using bigotry, ignorance, and flawed science.
But that's why I'm saying that the way he worded things was absolutely positively wrong. Everything that he did,
it was his mind.
Was wrong. I'm not saying his beliefs are completely wrong because he believes it. I don't agree with it. But
his beliefs are completely wrong if he believes
his beliefs are wrong too.
Homosexuals are lower than animals. His beliefs are completely wrong.
And by the way, there are 450 species of animals that engage in homosexuality. So his statements were wrong. I mean, everything was wrong.
Our opinion, right? That's our opinion. But he has his.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's he has a bigoted opinion.
And the funny thing is also, the Philippines is a very strong Catholic country.
Sure.
And because the church is so strong in the Philippines, I guess Manny was thinking. Actually, I don't know what he was thinking, but I mean, it's a little strange that I guess that there's so much hate now towards somebody.
I don't think that's strange. I think it's completely well deserved. And in fact, as I brought up earlier, Manny went on in true narcissistic form, knowing he hurt a lot of people's feelings, and beyond hurting feelings. I mean, he absolutely killed these people. And then he went out and go ahead and said that, oh, by the way, if you have sex with a man, you deserve to be put to death. And quoting an Old Testament verse, which is, again, just absolutely, like, I can't, there are no words for what Manny has done.
Well, it's insulting.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's what I love. So here's what I love. Manny has two Twitter accounts. We got to get out of here. Halftime's way overtime. But let me just bring this out. He's got two Twitter accounts, and the verified one, which is at Manny Pacquiao, had 2 million followers. Right, a couple days ago, it got down to 13,000 followers just the other day.
It's the Manny Pacquiao TR. That's the
no. He's at the two accounts. The TR is 2.5. The other one's 1.95, which was the at Manny Pacquiao without the TR, and it was down to, I think, but it's now back up to 20,000 or something like that. But the buzz and the feel in the Philippines, where you think you have this guy who's a hero, kind of hero status, to us, probably most famous Filipino in the history of our of our people, is so hated. Like, people like Floyd more than they like Manny right now in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of the message I want to give around here to other people who might not be in the Philippines. He is a hated man this week.
Mo, I know we've got to go.
2.5. He still has 2.5 million
for
followers.
the TR one, right? But the other one is not. Anyway, go ahead, Brad. Last word, then we got to get out.
Nah, man. I just got to say, anytime Manny is less liked than Mo Twister, we're in trouble.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I look great. I look great to my country right now. It's awesome. Thank you, Manny. Love you, homosexuals. Manny. You guys are my guy. You my boy. Right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have second half of the show. You're listening to the Full Court Report.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the best import award?
Our best import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not changing nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's the Full Court Report, second half, and we are going to OKC to talk to Brad. Brad, you got 12 minutes, and the third quarter is all yours, my friend. What's up?
Sure, thanks, Mo. I'm going to address the Randy Foye trade to Oklahoma City later in the week, only because I'm going to get a chance to see the Oklahoma City firsthand while I'm here in town. But for this quarter, I'm going to take it over to the East to a favorite player of mine. I make no apologies for my love affair right now with Andre Drummond. I think Mr. 2020 is an incredible talent, and I think during All-Star Weekend, he showed the world exactly why he's a star to watch. He made all the right moves, did all the right things, and I think that he's really going to be a mainstay, and his star power is only going to grow. So the reason I bring up Drummond is because Stan Van Gundy at trade deadline made a number of interesting moves to sort of help surround him with more talent. And right now, the Pistons stand at 27-27, which has them, just outside of the sort of 8th playoff seed. And I really feel like they want to make a big push. They're overachieving this year or whatever. And that 27-27 would actually be 7th out West. But instead, this year's been a bit of an inverse from last year. East more competitive than the West, whatever have you. But I wanted to, I guess, address the trade they brought in, obviously, Tobias Harris from your Orlando Magic, Mo. And they gave up Brandon Jennings and Ihsan Ilyasova, which means Jackson is now their full-time playmaker. And, I guess I just wanted to see how you guys feel if Detroit made a big enough move or the right kind of move to help sort of get them back into that playoff picture. Because right now, they're on the outside looking in, and, it's almost kind of like this is, a real push they need to make. This team hasn't been in the postseason now, for 6 straight years, and they really feel like they're a chance. How do we feel about the Pistons? Can they, we talked about mediocre teams not making enough moves. Well, I think Pistons made more than enough moves this deadline. How do we feel about what Drummond's now got around him? And is this a wise move from Van Gundy blowing this team up the way he did?
I love this trade. I think this is the biggest trade of the deadline. I know you guys were talking about the Jeff Green to the Clippers, and rightfully because they're a higher seed in the West. But I think this makes Detroit a legit threat in the playoff picture. I love Tobias Harris's game. He has struggled a little bit this year, but this is a guy who had a fat contract because he deserves it, man. Right. He's a talented young player, and to give up guys like Jennings and Ilyasova to get him, I think is a huge win for Van Gundy. Massive move, and I absolutely love it. I think it makes them a really big, interesting team now. And third best player on the team, Tobias Harris, I'll take that.
Yeah, and remember, when they were winning those games and they were in the playoff picture, Jennings wasn't even in playing. He wasn't even active.
Right,
so, I mean,
right.
This is a very good move for the Pistons, and even perhaps for the Magic. I mean, I think the added backcourt depth with Jennings there could do them wonders. I mean, I don't know if it's going to get them into the playoffs, but I think it's at least gives them another piece.
Plus, remember, the Pistons also got Montejunas from the Rockets, which, again, is another nice piece to add to that front court depth. So I like what I think we're going to see from Detroit come postseason time.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Jennings and Ilyasova. They're expiring contracts, and of course we know about Jennings, his Achilles problem, all types of other injuries. I think we're all agreed here, guys. This is a good move for the Pistons, and they're going to be one of those up and coming teams for the next couple of years in the East here. I truly believe it. And Drummond, we saw him All-Star Game weekend. Brad is right. He, other than horrible at the slam dunk contest, he's a monster.
I mean, you look at the core of the Pistons. All of them are in their low 20s. And it's you kind of, this is a nice youth movement and pieces that they have here in Detroit. And I if you're a Pistons fan, you should be excited because this could be a team to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Right, but that's the point, Jinno, is that they're not waiting for next year to be in the playoffs. They're not worrying about sitting on their hands. Yeah. They're doing the opposite to Atlanta, and they're shaking things up now because they figured it's better to make a move now. It's better to be competitive now. It's better to give your fans something to cheer about. And it's not about how much you're getting paid tomorrow. It's how much you're getting paid today. And therefore, you've got to earn that money and convince the owners and the GMs and everybody else that, you know what, you're here for a reason. And Stan Van Gundy obviously likes particular characters and whatever. And he realized Reggie Jackson's clearly the guy that needs to be sort of running the show up there. And him and Drummond have good chemistry together. And I like that Harris can play both forwards. They've got one of the Morris guys there too. And, the guy they picked up from the Rockets, of course, Mo, as you alluded to, I think gives them real versatility now, whether he comes off the bench or starts. I think there are good things coming out of Detroit now, and I think we're going to see it sooner rather than later. I don't think they should sit on their hands. I'm glad Detroit made a move. I think it made it a little more exciting for that sort of lower half of the East, and I hope they continue to climb. I hope they get back into the playoffs picture, and I would love to see Drummond go head-to-head with LeBron in round one. I think that's great for TV. I think it's great for fans, and I think it's going to help his star power.
I think Reggie Jackson's going to show us a lot too. I think Reggie Jackson will definitely show us a lot too in the next couple of years. I'm excited to see his potential.
They have some good size in this team, and they're pretty versatile as well.
Yeah, no, and I think jumping off what Chris said about this being kind of good for the now and good for the future.
Yeah,
Again, I brought it up earlier. We don't know how long Cleveland might be dominant in these. Maybe it might not much longer. And this is a nice time for Detroit. If they don't go very deep in the playoffs with this crew, at least they're going to be able to build chemistry, build just kind of a rhythm going coming into the next season if they don't fare well. But I think they're going to do rather well in the playoffs with this group of guys. They also brought in Marcus Thornton, who's he's a decent, nice little backup shooter at the two positions. So I think they got nice little bits and pieces here. Headlined, by the way, of course, by Tobias Harris.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, guys? And I guess one of the other things too here, one of the Morris twins is there, and we were talking about this a little bit off air. But I think what we're going to see, and I think this is an interesting point, I want to sort of bring this up as a topic of discussion on this show is, as Drummond, star power grows, as a lot of these other sort of players sort of grow in popularity and they get more endorsement deals, and sometimes their endorsement deals actually, end up, being bigger than their NBA sort of contracts. And by default, then these brands become their primary employers, and thus their obligations are to them first and not to their actual NBA teams. Are we going to start to see, over the course of the next couple of years with these, contracts sort of getting much, much bigger and the salary cap and all the rest, we're going to start to see like demands being made by these players that are kind of going to go outside of just the world of basketball? And does anyone sort of think that it's crazy for me to think that we're going to start to see guys build things into their contracts that have nothing to do with basketball, but help them branding-wise, media-wise, and all the rest of it?
I absolutely think that's possible.
You mean crazy demands like getting their coaches fired, which they've been doing for years? I mean,
right? Right.
I mean, this
even crazier than that. You know how certain like celebrities or singers, they have these things called a rider, which they write into their contract. If they're going to have a concert, they need their hotel room to have this lukewarm water and this kind of temperature. I absolutely think that's where we're going to be heading, because again, we're giving these superstars so much power now over what they request for and what they want out of their team. And I wouldn't be shocked if we would see, like, maybe these Morris twins with Markieff and Marcus Morris. You know how they weren't good enough to demand that the two of them stay together in the same team, but you know what? A couple of brothers coming out of school, in the next X amount of years might be good enough to give a demand like that. Maybe what if a Brook Lopez would go, oh, hey, listen. Steph Curry is a massive example. What if Steph goes, hey, you know what? I'm gonna re-sign with the Warriors for X amount of record dollars. Also, I want you to sign my brother for 5 years as well. They're gonna do it.
You don't have to be you don't have to be good enough to get it. If a team is dumb enough to do it for you, it's like max contract. You don't have to be a max contract player. If a team wants to give it to you, you're a max contract player. So it doesn't have to be a Steph Curry. If a team is dumb enough to fit into your demands, they can do it. And I could see this type of stuff happening even more so. But keep in mind, it's the market that dictates it. These superstars, in a lot of ways, at least the superstars, are creating jobs. They're their own business. So sometimes it actually makes sense when they put these odd demands in, because they should be getting it.
Right. And I guess my point too, Chris, is just like coming off of All-Star Weekend, where we've seen a lot of guys doing sort of a lot of, their brand endorsements all come to town, and these guys, have a lot of sort of commitments and whatever to fulfill. And then we see the sort of way that they're treated by the media, and the way they sort of now the players themselves are influencing the kind of access the media can get, and the sort of questions that they're willing to entertain, the sort of places they're willing to be available. And I just see that, more of the power is shifting away from sort of where it was traditionally and more in the hands of the players, but not necessarily just in the players, but in whatever their endeavors are away from the court. You see these guys using platforms now, to sort of promote whatever they need to promote, or to sort of be about whatever they want to be about, that sort of extends beyond basketball. And I just sort of wonder whether we're going to sort of see more and more of these sort of things being worked into their actual basketball contracts, so that maybe the team can actually, the player can take a night off, doesn't have to play on a Tuesday because he's got to fly to another city to do sort of, a launch for a product, or he's got to do other sorts of things, because now the guys aren't just sort of having their lives governed by just the sport. They're mini corporations, and starting to get more and more sort of activity going away from the floor. And it wouldn't surprise me if in 2 years, Westbrook's playing, for the Lakers, but he's only appearing in, 47 games, because the rest of the year he wants to be off, working runways and doing all sorts of other crazy sort of things. Because these guys understand now that basketball itself, isn't just necessarily the only avenue they have to be a personality, or to be a celebrity, or to necessarily sort of be involved in our lives across, multiple platforms. And the more they control their own messages, the more that they sort of take control of the way that, we respond to them, the more I think that they're going to become more and more sort of powerful and dictate more of how we view them and how we see them. And a lot of them speak about, they're not just basketball players anymore. They want to be businesses, and they want to be other things. And so basketball isn't the sort of focus for all of them anymore.
Okay, but
I just sort of wonder what this is going to sort of lead us to.
All right, where does the buck stop, though? Okay, so we can say now that the superstars have so much power within their team that they can make things happen. They can get a coach fired, they can get a guy traded, they can get a guy hired and all that. But are the brands still the most powerful in all of this? Like, yeah, sure, LeBron can do whatever he wants in Cleveland, but he can't go ahead and push around the guys over there at Nike. They just gave him $500 million or something. Are the brands still top alpha dog in this entire kind of dynamic?
Yes. Absolutely. I don't think there's a question about that.
Well, the brand still need spokespeople, Mo. I think the relationship isn't as maybe it's more balanced than we give it credit. Like maybe the player has more sway and thus them and their agent can actually, come in and sort of make wild demands now. But this is part of it. Like LeBron and KD and Steph, they've now ballooned endorsement deals to a level that we've never even knew was possible. Now there are all these stipulations. John Wall leaves his brand because he wasn't getting, these specifics that he felt he should have been earning. We see James Harden doing all sorts of crazy things and shopping around and getting all sorts of, crazy sort of stipulations built into his, Adidas contract and whatever have you. And so I think that these guys now start to sort of realize and have teams built around them. I mean, LeBron doesn't, does LeBron need Nike? Well, maybe, but I'm sure if LeBron decided he was going to start his own shoe line, I'm sure kids all around the world would want to buy LeBrons because it's one of those things that is mutually beneficial to be with a brand because they do a lot of the lifting for you. But some of the, elite guys, man, maybe they don't need the companies the way that we assume that they do. Like if LeBron wanted to start his own soft drink or soda, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure we'd all be drinking LeBron tomorrow.
Yeah, the brand has a power until that great player gets another brand to leapfrog that brand. That's where the power ends. And that's a very hard thing to do. Right. But if they could pull it off, that's where the brands can
so it's still the player then, man. So
yeah, we saw in the mid '80s Michael Jordan doing it. So you're right, it can be the player. It's just very hard.
Gotcha. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have our fourth quarter. You're listening to the Full Court Report. We got Jinno coming up next with point guard duties in the fourth. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is the fourth quarter, and we have Jinno Ruffino with the responsibilities here for 12 minutes. Jinno, you are in Los Angeles tonight. What do you got, my friend?
You know what? Well, I'm shocked. I'm really, really shocked that after the All-Star break, that you did not use you did not want to talk about the Warriors for your quarter. It's kind of strange.
It's too predictable. Too predictable. I want to be
let me take a burden off of your hands.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'll talk about the Dubs. I mean, the Dubs right now 48-4, and they have to go 25-5 to break the record of the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, we all know, has the regular season record. And they have 17 games left at home, which could be the deciding factor. So the reason why I want to talk about this too is because right now here in LA, Coach Popovich is here with the Spurs, and he was talking about such high praises about the Warriors. And then let me read some of his quotes to you guys really quickly here. This is from Pop. I've spent more time thinking about Golden State than I have any other team I've ever thought about in my whole career.
Interesting.
That statement alone from Greg Popovich,
massive. Yeah.
That's got a lot of weight. I mean, it's right. We also saw like Manu Ginobili saying that the Warriors are unbeatable. So I just want to pick your brains, guys. I mean, what's I mean, this is coming from the Spurs. What's arguably the team that should be able to compete against the Warriors. What do you guys have to say about?
I think, Brad, you said the word sarcastic. Yeah, Popovich is very sarcastic many times, and when you hear that one line, you don't give him the benefit that he's telling the truth. It's like, yeah, he's probably just messing around. But when he goes on to explain why,
exactly.
But he went on to explain why. He said because they're really fun. I buy a ticket and go watch them play. I when I see them move the ball, I get very envious. When I see them shoot uncontested shots more than anybody else in the league, it's inspiring. It's just great basketball. When I start hearing the rest of that kind of the lines that he threw after that, then I'm like, oh my God, I think Popovich really means it, man.
I think he does.
He really, I think it really is spending nights thinking about this Warrior team.
He of course has to worry about them, but
it's a team that he really enjoys watching, and he said it. It's not just about Steph Curry; it's about the pieces that just work, and we all saw how the Spurs did it in the finals against the Heat a couple of years ago, and we all said to ourselves, "Wow, that's the way basketball's supposed to be played." And then all of a sudden, here come the Warriors, and they kind of took it a step further.
Listen,
and
sure, they're a team that he thinks are fun to watch. Sure that he thinks about them, especially if there's going to be a Western Conference Final matchup. But from what I think with Popovich is this is more of a mental game for his team. Start saying these types of things for the Spurs to whet their appetite to say, whoa, we need to be competitive. We need to want to go out there and beat this Warriors team. Our own coach is saying that maybe we're not as good. This is a type of thing Popovich would do. And this is the type of thing that the Spurs would respond to because of how professional they are as a team. That's my take on it for Popovich to do this.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that he doesn't mean it also.
Of course,
he
thinks about it.
Yeah, he thinks about them, and he enjoys watching them. He loves the way they move the ball around and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that he's not trying to use it to fuel his players.
Right, and it doesn't mean that Steve Kerr isn't thinking about the Spurs, even though they blasted them in Oakland. Of course, they have to think about these top teams.
You know,
the thing is that I guess does anybody?
Yes, sir, go ahead, Brad. Go ahead, Brad. I'll go after you.
I was just going to say, does anybody honestly think, or can anyone actually visualize Pop? Waking up middle of the night, dripping sweat. It's like Freddy Krueger's all over. Yeah, it's not like Freddy Krueger's invading his dreams. It's like it's one of those situations where as his job is to worry about the competition. It's no different to a blockbuster actor worrying about someone else earning more money at the box office if they've got a movie opening at the same time. These are competitive people. Of course, they're worrying about the competition. But for Pop to kind of come out and concede that he would pay to sort of see the Warriors play. Well, let's wait until the Warriors make the finals and the Spurs don't, and see if Pop's sitting in the stands with a ticket and popcorn. Because unless that happens, man, I ain't buying this. I just think I think at the end of the day, he's being super sarcastic. He's getting his own team. He's getting ahead of his team. And I think that he's doing all the things that Pop usually does, which is, hey, guys, you can take it on face value, or you can try to sort of digest it the way that I want you to digest it, which is, you know what, I'm serious, but I'm not that serious.
Right.
Back to the Warriors though, real quick. They need to go 25-5, as you said, Jinno, to break the Bulls record. When you look at the schedule, it lines up beautifully for them to kind of really do that. I know they start the week off here, starting tomorrow on a 6-game road trip. This is going to be a tough stretch. They have the Clippers in LA. They play the Hawks in Atlanta. They're going to be traveling kind of cross country. They end up with OKC over there in Oklahoma, Brad. Where I think you're going to the game for that one. But after that, boy, man, it just seems so downhill after that. After that OKC game, they essentially have like 9 games at home. They've got 2 at home, and then they got to go to LA to destroy the Lakers, and then they go back home for another 6 in a row. So that's like a 9-game stretch there, and they have 17 games left in Oakland to get to that record. Right. That record is very accessible at this point, and I absolutely think they're going to get it.
Yeah, but Mo, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. If this player gets injured and that player gets injured and this player gets injured, they won't get to 73. I mean, this is what we're doing today, right? No, I mean, clearly this team is going to get to 73 plus wins. Lock it up. It's a done deal.
So are we all on the same page? They're going to get 73? Or they're going to break the record?
Listen, by the time they start getting some real competition, which is like San Antonio, they play San Antonio 3 more times, right, to get there. So they have to go 25-5, but they got to go through the Spurs 3 times. But, they do it at home. By the time they get to San Antonio, it's already the second to the last game of the year. They are probably already at 73 at that point and not threatening it anymore. So I absolutely think they get to it. No question.
I mean, they play OKC twice. Yeah, I mean, there's still some good teams here, but I think they will. I really do think they will. And this is a record I think they're going to go for. Brad, Brad, do you concede that these even though with OKC there, 2 games they're going to be playing at the Warriors?
I think that again, I don't know if they can win the 72. I don't know if they're going to take the foot off the pedal. If they can get some real breathing space between them and San Antonio, I really do believe that they're going to rest themselves for the playoffs. I don't think it makes sense to sort of go all in on the record that everyone knows, is nice to look at, but doesn't actually equate to a championship. Right. This team is thinking championship all the way. And I do think that if they can get a 5 to 6 game, whatever it is, buffer on the Spurs, I think they may rest some guys, play the bench guys more, whatever the case may be. But the truth is, this Golden State teams have been playing so well that sometimes they just end the game in 3 quarters. There's no even need to play a fourth. So,
but even if they take the foot off the pedal, 25-5, even with taking the foot off the pedal, is very attainable. They can take it off the pedal and go 25-5.
Yes. 25-5 with 17 games at home, and they're undefeated at home.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So let me answer Jinno directly. Given that earlier in the year I had said that I don't think they're going to get there because of Kerr and for a number of X factors in the equation. Now I look at the record, the homestand. I look at the 25-5 thing. I think it's highly doable, and I think that they're potentially going to gun for it. I'd like to hear them come out and say that this is of utmost importance for the push. Once Steph Curry and co actually sort of say that on the record, and then they actually sort of put those words into action, happily concede that they may be the best regular season team we've ever seen, record-wise, of course. And if they get it, good for them, because it doesn't necessarily automatically mean they're winning the title, and it doesn't mean the playoffs are going to be any less competitive. But if this is one of their goals and they get there, awesome. I think it's great for basketball, and it's a real talking point for us. And I hope they get there in style. I hope if they get there that it's all about the momentum into the playoffs, and that Steph puts up wild numbers and Draymond chases triple doubles, and I just want to see them get there, but not do it at the cost of going on to sort of deep playoff runs and potentially ringing up the championship.
Yeah.
If they're at 69 wins, if they're at 70 wins, let's call it 70 wins, and they have and they need these wins against the Spurs towards the end of the season. They played the Spurs twice, and they played Memphis twice as well in their last 4 games of the season.
Right,
what would you guys?
What if Pop realizes that they're out of reach and Pop just rests his guys? Like if the number 2 seed is locked up because the Thunder can't catch the Spurs,
if he will, he will.
No, he will. You know for a fact that if it's too far ahead that he's going to rest those guys. But if you're the Warriors though, if you're the Warriors and you see you see San Antonio twice, Memphis twice, and you're at 70 wins in the final with the final 4 games of the regular season, what do you guys do? Do you guys push for it, or do you guys?
I think the Warriors and Spurs are 2 different personalities in terms of their players. I think they have similar games and ball move and all this, but the Warrior team is a cool group of kids. They're kind of like a little swag in their step. They're rapping in the airplanes and stuff like that. They're not the quiet Kawhis and all of these guys that are carrying themselves a certain way. I think the Warriors absolutely go for the record because it means a lot to them. And then remember, there's still the home record that they're going to go after as well and likely get because they've got a favorable schedule. So all of these things I think are, aside from attainable, these are records they're going to go after.
Yeah, right. I completely agree with you, Mo. Because if they see within sight with a couple games to go, I think they're gonna go for it. I don't know. I can see them resting some players, but I still think these group of guys would want to go for that record.
Here's I guess what I'm going to concede here. Resting guys still means that more playing time for Spates, more playing time for Iguodala, and more playing time for Sean Livingston. That's not exactly resting guys, because on any other team, those guys would either be starters or 6th men. So. Here's what I think is super interesting: is you talked about difference of personality, Mo. To me, and I guess I've sort of seen this and maybe haven't admitted it through the season of this recording, but I think this Golden State team legitimately has an ego about itself, and I think that's good for them. Sure. And I think that's where they differ from San Antonio. San Antonio, Pop takes the ego out of things, whereas I think Steph Curry and Draymond push the ego forward and really sort of make sure that these guys sort of can gloat and can bounce around it and sort of be whatever it is that they choose they want to be at that given time. So they go into each game trying to win. So if it's late in the season and they can get to 72, I don't think they necessarily thinking 72 when they're playing their opponent. They're just playing that game to win that game. And if that equals 72, then I think they'll be proud of themselves for getting there.
I think this is a team that is thinking 72. They go for regular season goals, but I will say this, guys. If they have 72 games the last day of the season, they will not go for 73 because they'll all stop what they're doing and watch Kobe Bryant's last game. So bank on that.
Well, that and they're going to play Memphis and the Goons on that team. They might just get hurt. They're like, okay, we're resting everybody. We don't want anyone gets hurt for the playoff run. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean it's a great. This is going to be the storyline that's going to, I think, dominate the second half. As they're coming in with an 11-game winning streak, so they're already clicking again as they did in the first half in all cylinders, and it's going to be a fun ride to watch the Warriors.
Hey Mo, so they started 25-0, right?
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
What if they finished 25-0? How impressed would we be with that kind of finale?
Oh, that would be beautiful. No, that'd be great. Hey, listen, they're 24-4 on the road. They just have to be as good as they are on the road right now, and that record is theirs. There are a lot of angles to look at this. The home record, the overall record is just going to be great.
Well, the Hawks could be if this team gets injured and that team gets injured and that player gets injured. The Hawks could be.
Come on, man.
But just being real. We all agree that
just being real.
Yeah, I think it's
Chris,
a
what
lock.
if you get injured? Chris, what if you get injured? What if we're down to 3 hosts? What do we do then?
I know, that's a big problem.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be. I think we're going to have a new record by the end of the regular season. Mo, you think so? How about Chris and really quickly, Chris and Brad?
We locked in for it. Let's do it. Let's do 74. Let's say 74.
Brad,
Chris, what I want to know is, we reached the trade deadline. How come you weren't traded? What's going on, man? Why did we pull the trigger on you?
Be careful of that, because you don't know what you're going to get. Just get a bunch of basketballs in return.
Hey, we want some draft picks for you, all right? What's out there?
For the future. Gold.
All right, we got to get out of here, guys. Fourth quarter's done. No overtime for us tonight, but we will still go around the room, plug our social media accounts, and call it a night tonight. So why don't we start with you, Brad, over there in Oklahoma City. What do you got?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackpackBaller. And all through this week, I'll be posting some All-Star picks and putting some new comments up there and trying to report live from the happenings here in Oklahoma City. So check it out and let me know what you think. And, chat soon.
Sounds good. Jinno in Orange County, what's up?
I will be going to the Lakers-Spurs game tomorrow, so I will be reporting on how badly the Lakers have lost in that game. And I'll also be going to the Clippers-Warriors game on Saturday, so you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Jinno Rufino, JINNO RUFINO.
Sounds good. Chris.
It's at Not Bill Walton. The feed is more entertaining than the trade deadline was, but definitely not good enough to keep Coach Pop up at night. However, it is classier than Manny Pacquiao. Shut up, Manny. Stop being a bigot.
Hey, by the way, speaking of Manny, all the people that unfollowed him, why don't you go ahead and follow us at the Full Court Report on Twitter, and you can get me on Instagram and Twitter as well at DJ Mo Twister. We'll see you on Sunday night, I believe, for our next episode. All of us will still be in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, so that'll be kind of nice to get on the same kind of page there again. So,
back to the regular
thanks for
schedule
listening to the show.
Back to the regular schedule.
That's right. Thanks for listening to the show. Keep on interacting with us and tell your friends about the program. We appreciate it very much. See you next time. Bye, guys.